Hello and welcome, my dear listeners. It is with great enthusiasm that I present to you a beautiful woman whom I had the pleasure of meeting a few months ago and have since forged a meaningful friendship with. Jenna Foley, a resilient soul who has traversed the journey of healing decades of trauma and buried memories. Her ongoing quest for self-restoration extends across all dimensions and lifetimes, propelling her toward the path of enlightenment. Jenna is the visionary and creator of My Awakening Within, a venture driven by the noble purpose of illuminating the path for all individuals, empowering them to construct their personal arsenal of tools for embarking on their unique healing odyssey. Through her expertise, she lends her guidance, drawing insights from the cosmos, higher realms, and her own transformative experiences. Functioning as an intuitive and energy healer within the Akashic realm, Jenna serves as a conduit for clearing entrenched patterns and releasing blocked energies. Delving into the origins of initial misalignments, she propels consciousness forward, orchestrating a harmonious realignment of the entire being, meaning body, mind, spirit, and soul. In addition to her role as an intuitive healer, Jenna wears the hats of a spiritual and conscious living coach, a business mentor, and the host of the enlightening My Awakening Within podcast. I invite you to embrace the wisdom she shares in this episode, and may it contribute to your own journey of self-discovery and healing. And now, please enjoy. Hello, Jenna. Thank you for agreeing to chat on this new podcast. You are my second interview, and I am very excited to have you. So for everyone listening and watching, I met Jenna maybe a month ago or so, and talking with her, oh my goodness, she is a beautiful human being. She blew my mind, and I just want to be friends with her. So I'm very excited for this episode on true love magic. She has told me a little bit about her love relationship with her now husband. And well, let's start. So,
thank you,
Jenna, what is true love for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, thank you for having me. It's been exciting to meet you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so true love. So as you know, I have been in a very long-term relationship that I'll dive into, as we kind of go throughout the questions. And true love for me is having that person where I can feel like my true authentic self. I can feel like I can show up, or if I'm having a day where I need to rest or something's off, that person will meet me the rest of the way, right? So if I have 20% to give that day, they're going to cover the rest so that we're blending in harmony as best as we can. And I really truly feel that to understand each other from a soul level, from a this is what we've gone through, and that's not dictating our future. And understanding that we are evolving beings, that we are growing, that we are learning every day, and we may not get everything right. It just being able to, I mean, that's a big, deep piece, right? But I love to have fun. I love to have joy in my life and do things that are meaningful for me. So definitely someone that can meet at finding things that we can become passionate about, because we don't have everything in common. So whatever it is to find something that we can both laugh. I'm a big believer of laughter and laughter feeding the soul. And so it could literally be very simple conversations or jokes where I am absolutely like I can't breathe type of laughing. So so
That's
really someone that, yeah, someone that really touches those aspects, and someone who is working on themselves in their own self-development. I don't think we ever stop. So it's really kind of understanding like when things come along and how we can really truly grow from that. And because I've been on my own healing journey, and that's a really big piece for me. A lot of different areas, a lot of different, someone who's really interested in trying things that are new. Like I'm a person who, and I say that because I love to try new things. So this is like someone that isn't afraid to challenge themselves to really get out and do things that may be like unconventional, or just, not care what people have to think about what this new thing is. So a lot of those things really, fit the build with what I think true love is. And there's so much more to it, but that's just kind of like a short a shortened version.
a short one. Oh my goodness, I loved it. You touched on so many points that are key for a relationship to work, right?
Yeah.
Are we kind of compatible in the important things for both parties? And it has to be like a balance, right? Like in Taoism, it's just balance. Like you mentioned, if I add 20% this day and he's at 8, he has to be at 80, or let's try to, it is like what I do sometimes is like, hey, baby, I am not feeling good today. I might be grumpy.
Yeah.
Or X or Y, right? And he sometimes tells me, well, I'm a little bit stressed today. I just want to chill for the evening. And so just hold the space for the other one, right?
Yes.
And with respect and love and building. And that's the only way that a relationship can grow and grow day by day, because of course, it is not easy, right? It does require work. Yes, I don't like to really use the word work because it entitles like effort, right? Like, okay, I don't like to work. But we want flow, right? We want flow, like you said so beautifully. I want to have fun and laughter. It's so important. Of course, we don't want a boring relationship, right? Like we're always working or doing something else. We want to cry. We want to laugh together with an open heart, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. How you're doing today or blah, blah, or at the end of the week, what happened, and constantly checking on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
wow, I loved your definition of true love. And for everyone, it might be different, but the
Mm-hmm.
core and the theme seems to be the same, right?
Yeah.
Respect and care,
Yes.
like and it is constant. So
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
that definition. So you told me you met, so you and your husband are high school sweethearts.
Sort of. Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear that story, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, we met in high school and um we weren't dating. There wasn't like an official term, but we saw each other and we definitely had some fun. And so at that point, it was the summer before college where we were hanging out quite a bit. We ended up I was going away to college and I had it on my mind. I'm going away. I went away. I said I didn't want any strings, what I called at the time, strings attached. And so I made it a point where everyone knew, all of my, people that I was seeing knew that I didn't want anything serious. And I realized that I I was falling in love with him. And so and it was mutual, but I was going away and I think it was maybe early August. So we had a little bit of the summer together where we spent a lot of the days together. And I we didn't make anything official, but like the week that I went away, he had officially asked me. I actually had food poisoning. And he asked me to be his girlfriend, right, in those days, right, to be official. And so it was interesting timing because I was like, I'm going to be in my head, I'm going to go away to college. I'm not going to have anything. And then boom, like I just knew, I knew it needed to be, that's what it needed to be. And it was funny because I was stuck in with food poisoning and it's like instead of being out partying or whatever. So he was there for me and it just all felt right. So we did, yeah. So we met in high school and so we've been officially together 15 years and then married 5 years. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a really cute story, Jenna,
Yeah.
especially for the food poisoning. Very romantic.
I know. I know. It's like the universe throws in, boom, you're going to stay in tonight or this weekend. It was really bad. So,
but that's when you found out he was the one. He took care of you in the worst
yeah.
moment.
Yeah. We were, even though, I was away quite a distance, we had this connection that continued. We're on the phone and it felt right. So, yeah.
Love it. So it's been 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand a little bit on how he proposed?
Yes. Okay. We moved to Arizona about 9.5 years ago, and he moved out before I did. We've already been together at that point, like 7-ish years. And so I was really on the mindset of taking things slow. My husband had gone through quite a bit. He had lost both of his parents in a short period of time, in like 18 months. And so shortly after that, he had moved out and I had moved out after. And so it was like, okay, fresh start. Let's, take it slow. And so he knew that we were both on the same page. And so at some point, along the way, a few years later, we were up in Sedona and I had a little bit of a hint, like why are we bringing champagne? It was with a small group of friends, like maybe 6 to 8 people. Can't remember exactly, but very small group. And there was like we were staying at a really nice resort that we can go hiking like right into the forest, and there was like a river there as well. So very differently than the conventional Red Rocks. And I actually got really sick that I I was like in bed, and I could tell he was like, "Oh, you want to go on a hike?" And he knew that I wanted intimacy between that moment. That was just my choice. That I didn't mind the after, but celebration, but that intimacy was really important. So it was very weird how he asked me to go on a hike when he knew I was like in bed. So I was like, okay. So we were going on the hike, and it was interesting. He was probably because I'm intuitive. I knew what was happening. He was like looking around for a spot to kneel, and I could see he wasn't like completely focused on what we were talking about. And then he was like just looking around and not a frantic, but just trying to frame it for himself. And so and then he eventually got down on one knee. We stopped, and he let me know that he wanted to be with me for the rest of his life. And yeah, it was pretty perfect. The intimacy being in Sedona was magical too. That energy out there is so beautiful. So it's just amazing.
Wow. Yeah. I've seen some pictures on the internet of people that proposed.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I just love it. I think
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to tell my husband, please propose again in
Again.
Sedona.
Yep.
Right? Like for the 10-year or 5 year something, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
said, okay, you both like hiking. That's awesome. I love
Yes.
hiking too.
Yes.
And does he practice anything of what you practice? I mean, spiritually, is he into it? Because I know that's an important part
Mhm.
of your life, right?
Mhm.
So is he in? Is he kind of like just from distance, or he joins you sometimes? Like my husband joins me sometimes for some of the meditations. If he kind of resonates with them, he's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm in. And sometimes he's like, no, thanks.
That's a really good question. So this whole spiritual journey that I've been on, it's very recent. It hasn't been like years and years of doing it. So he didn't come into it that was where I was. And I went I dove into everything spiritual, meditation, universe, energy. So it's a bit different for him. He's totally supportive of me getting into this and me starting my own business and practice with this. He doesn't join in, but I have noticed the past maybe 2 months that we were having conversations very recently on like past lives. And I was like, we don't know. So is that kind of open, like kind of digging in to figure out, do we bring certain things in this life? And so we were having like a 2-hour conversation on that. I was like, what is happening? Because there's nothing with him with like energy or like anything like that. And again, he's not against it. It's just not his thing. So I don't know. We'll see. I definitely don't put anything on him. I just show up and have things around, and he knows things that I'm doing. So, nothing that I can see yet, but who knows?
That's great. You mentioned about past lifetimes
Yeah.
with him.
Hmm.
And what does he think about that? Does he believe in past lifetimes, or he's just like, oh, maybe, maybe not?
Yeah, I think he kind of does. He's open. So he like when we were talking about it, we are kind of like trying to figure out and just intertwine things, and he's just open about that piece. So he feels there could be that could be a thing. And as we were kind of talking, so it wasn't like a yes or no, it was just like there could be. And as we were talking about it, he was kind of trying to say, or we were both kind of saying, right, what do we bring anything into this life? Is there illness? Is there something that happened in that life, lessons that we would bring into this life? And so it was kind of an interesting conversation. I mean, those are conversations that even if you have like like you're on maybe on the fence, right, or open, if you are closed off to that, you won't typically have those. So it was really interesting because he was diving into like, oh, like maybe this is the lesson, or this happened to me. And he did say that he felt like he was a warrior in a past life. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. I was like,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Very man thinking, right? Like it was a warrior, yes.
Yeah, I know. I know.
That's awesome. The openness is very important, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we might not agree with our partners, but just the fact that, well, sometimes they give us the benefit of the doubt. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's see. Okay, I think you can do this, but okay, let's watch or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, but just the support in
Yes.
itself, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
And of course, trusting and supporting, and just of course sometimes giving advice is like, hey baby, I think, what about this way? And
Yeah.
then you give your point of view of why you are doing what you are doing,
Yeah.
and then they open more, right, to the possibility of what you want to create.
Yes.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So do you think a couple have to have many things in common for a relationship to work?
I think there should be some interest so that you can start conversations. Um, it might not be like, this is everything that I like to do and this is everything that you'd like to do. But if someone is fit and they enjoy to work out, and maybe they haven't done hiking before, well, that's something new that you can do together. But it's like you care about your wellness, right? So I think that's a good kind of transition. You enjoy, maybe you're into your wellness and you're always looking for new recipes, so that turns into something new that you can do together. So it's not necessarily like that all the details behind it, but like there's a core theme that is super important, I think. And other than that, not I found, at least I'll give the story. I found that all of my interests have changed since 15 years ago. I went through this healing journey and everything like got scrubbed, so to speak. The best terms is just like so many things fell and I rebuilt up this new foundation. And in that foundation, at one point, I said, I don't know what I like to do anymore. Like I literally had those thoughts. And so I kind of started to get into some new things. And so that at that point it was interesting too, because my husband was going on his own healing journey as well. So we were like figuring out who we were and then kind of joining up. But there was the theme of working on ourselves, right? Having that in common, that piece. And we could support each other in that avenue. And then it was like, okay, you like doing this, or now I'm into, like, I tried horseback riding once and I liked it. I asked him, he was like, nah. He said it wasn't for him. So I was like, okay. But like, as I'm trying new things, I'm not I'm not necessarily trying them to for him. I'm also like doing it for me, figuring out what I like, and then eventually kind of intertwining what makes sense in those core themes. And then as we build more themes, in our life, like now mine is spirituality and that piece. It's like, well, what is there anything that he likes from that? Is there anything that makes sense? And those conversations sometimes about the energy and the science and all of that, like that's something that's like, okay, this is something we have in common here. But there's a lot of differences, and there's a lot of things that I like to do, like separate and have my time. So I'm still kind of like discovering some things, but overall, we've been pretty successful, like the most successful, like I guess you can say, or the most happiest in our relationship now, which is we're like doing new things and not everything is what they used to be. So I think both can work, but that's kind of like from my experiences, I've been like the happiest this way. So
Wow, Jenna, that's so beautiful. And congratulations, because what I heard so far around me is that when one of the parties gets into even just meditation or anything spiritual, the relationship just falls apart. They find, because it is like a rediscovery, right, of yourself. Like you mentioned,
yeah.
what do I want now? What do I want to explore? What experiences I want, right, moving forward? And oftentimes, the new experiences people want to have do not include the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and
Yeah.
it is very um it is just amazing when you hear that somebody has found true love. And
Yeah.
one question I want to ask you is, around you, your friends, your circle of humans,
Mm-hmm.
how many couples do you know that really love each other, that they can say this is true love? In my case, one. I know one. It is an older couple, and they are super cute, and they found each other, and it's amazing. But other than that, I see my younger friends, and I don't see that, right? Or family members that are my age or younger. They are in relationships where they are totally different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't even like the same important things in life or agree, but they got married because X or Y, or they are getting older, which that's another whole topic,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they got married because, oh my God, I'm on my 30s and I'm going to die alone type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, that's another theme. But yes, can you tell me any of your friends or family members?
Yeah, I would agree with you, like one or two that I can think of. And the interesting thing is, the inner workings of a relationship, there's stuff that we see in the outside, and then there's stuff that goes on behind closed doors that we don't know about. So I'll say that, and I don't really truly know, because my husband and I have been happy throughout a relationship, but we've had a lot of really hard things that we've gone through together, that I've gone through on my own personal journey. And so I could imagine that people would like look from a lens and would be like, oh, I've been with him throughout his hard stuff, and we're together and we're getting married, and they didn't really know a lot of what was going on, a lot of the healing that I was avoiding. So who knows? I just say that, and I agree too with you, is like there's people who are like feel like they're rushed or things like that, like the maybe pressures from that they are used to from society on, hey, this needs to be it, this needs to be when. And so it's been interesting, but yeah, I would definitely agree with what you say. Seems about right. Yeah.
Totally. And it made me kind of think about the tests in life, right? Like, okay, and there's a moment, like, for instance, we maybe can say COVID, for instance, for so many couples was a real test. And you just hear all over that, oh, their relationship just fell apart. They realized they were not compatible at all. It was just not working anymore.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
I was, well, obviously in my marriage, it went wonderful. Like, I mean, just being stuck at home, like, that's a lot. Like, that's when you know, like, I don't know if you have heard this saying, I am paraphrasing here, but is if you want to really know someone, take a road trip with them.
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay. And that is so true. It's like, okay, when you get a flat tire and you how the person reacts, what does she or he does, and all those elements that might seem not important in the moment, but it can give you a hint of, and then you see maybe, oh, green light, or, I mean, green flag or red flag, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
okay. My next question is, do you think your relationship can improve?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're always a work in progress. I can say, to kind of give a little history that I wanted to touch upon with like the progression of the relationship. And then this way it's like, it's just like a 180. So we were young, right? So people are going to be in relationships at different points in their lives. And we were young. We didn't really know, we didn't really experience a lot of the world out there. And so there was like, there was pure lot of happiness, but also we started to try to figure out who we were, and a lot of that kind of clashed. So there was a lot of learnings on how to like work, like not like work together in a way where this is like my stuff and this is about me, and it's not like this argument's not about him. I'm arguing because this is about me, and that took me like 14 years to figure out. So there were all these arguments in the beginning where I had pushed out like healing and all this stuff. Along the way, there were traumas that happened with my husband, and grief and loss. And so there were definitely ways, like looking back at how we could have like come at it from a different direction now that we are where we are now. And so like to me, like with grief, I didn't know how to handle. I was just, I did the best that I could to be supportive, but I definitely, there was like, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to react. And so to me, those are like critical improvement points at that point in our lives. And then along the way, as we kind of kept going, we had a good fresh start here in Arizona. But I had a lot of things that had happened to me that was starting to impact like the relationship, and kind of going back to, right, everything looked good on the outside, but I have repressed memories from when I was under 11. And I was sexually abused when I was younger, and I don't really remember much, but I pushed that out. And as I got to my mid-20s, like something was there was like, I was starting to realize that like there's a reason I was a certain way. And so we kind of argue, and like I didn't face anything. Not until I went through all of my healing last year. So along the way, there's like, it's 15 years of like, oh my gosh, like I could have done it this way, that, and it didn't happen at that time. But what I have learned the most out of everything is that we are evolving. We are like, it's about what is happening inside, and that's like how am I manifesting that into my reality now. So if I am pushing something deep in, and I work through a lot of that, but if there is anything that's deep in there, like in this unconscious, that are just beliefs that are false about myself, I need to like work on that. And if something comes out and we're arguing, it's mainly about me. So that's like the biggest thing that I'm like, oh, okay, that's about me. you know. There's just so many things. I mean, I threw a lot in there
Yes. No,
in
no, no.
like a
I
short.
love it. You said facing the traumas,
Yeah.
I mean, emotionally, psychologically, and we tend to really ignore the
Yeah.
way we feel because we think, oh, I need to be strong. And
Mm-hmm.
you create this persona when the only one you are um, damaging even more is yourself, right?
Yeah.
And learning to ask for help, professional help, or
Yes.
just have another friend, right, that can listen to you and things like that. And I love
Yeah.
what you said, because there's always room for more improvement, right? It is
Yeah.
like, indeed, the spiritual journey never ends. So
Yes.
we can always improve with our partners
Yeah.
and improve and change, right? Like you mentioned, oh, the theme in my relationship seems to be this, but maybe in 3 months is going to be something different.
Yeah.
And it's fun just to think about the other one, right? And what comes ahead,
Yeah.
and what both of you want to create together. Okay,
Yeah.
are we gonna have a kid? Are we gonna buy a house? Or maybe we bought a house already, but okay, what's the next level?
Yes.
What's there? What other adventures? Like I always say, oh, uh, here in Mother Earth, the adventure continues. It
Yeah.
goes on and on and on. So
Yes.
that
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
And well, another question is, would you give any advice to people in the dating scene? I mean, especially at
Yes.
this time, like you mentioned before that uh, back in the day or something, like where boys would ask you like in a more romantic way, or like face to face, not through text, for
Yeah.
instance, right?
Yes.
And now
Yeah.
with so many apps and dating sites and dating apps, I mean, I keep hearing people are tired and they lose hope. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
have friends that say, oh, the good girls, where are they? I mean, it is boys.
Yeah.
And well, it seems that I'm not sure if we have overdone it in the sense of in a feminine perspective. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think, with all due respect to all men, but I think some men can be confused in the sense of like there's no more chivalry and
Mm.
things like that, if that makes sense, or more romanticism, because they think, okay, you want um, uh, equality at the
Yes.
workplace, equality everywhere. And I'm like, well, I am a feminist, but and and I disagree, but I'm a feminist in the sense that I want to be like the yin and yang, the balance. I want balance. A
Yes.
woman is as important as a man. And together they create the whole, right? Like
Yes.
it's a wholeness. I am supporting you and you supporting me. We're back to back. We're together in this. We cannot be separate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
so would you say anything to the people out there trying to find true love, or maybe they are on the fence, they have given up? What would you say to someone that has just given up?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple things. I would definitely start with one of the biggest things that I have done that's really helped me it like improve my relationship. And I know it's about like, right, finding the new person, but is like healing myself and looking within on beliefs that are not what I truly want. So, and it was interesting because as you were kind of saying some things, I was kind of thinking about all these things that we watch. The content is setting expectations out there, and sometimes it's like it's deep in there and it's like, okay, but is that what we really want? Like what? And maybe it is, but it's all this stuff's kind of being thrown at us, so it's like important to like really sit with it for a minute, more than a minute, but like really sit with like what we truly want in that person, and make sure that we're coming at it from a way that the our expectations are what we truly want. Because I would have expectations in my head about things, and I never said anything out loud, and then I would like kind of be like, well, why is this happening? And there could be arguments. So if it was like, if I was dating and I kind of had things in my head on like I expected things a certain way, it could be a good opportunity for like communication, for be able to communicate in a healthy way on things that, I don't know if expectations are the right word in that sense, but kind of like in a way, like communicate things if things aren't going the way that we had planned, or if something is bothering us. Well, did they know that it was right, that it was bothering you? Like, are these things that we really like? How can we expect so and so to know that, right? Maybe I like flowers. Has it ever been brought up? And that's like a simple thing, might be more like complex or whatever. Because for me, I don't really like flowers. So you know what I mean? Like kind of those pieces there. So I definitely would look at the healing within, looking at what I truly want, all the stuff out, and then start to figure out how to communicate in a healthy way. So if I feel like my communication skills were not they were like in the relationship aspect, in the business aspect they were great, so that's good. But in my personal life, I didn't know healthy boundaries or any type of that. So maybe building those tools on like how you would communicate too if you're having an issue with something. So you got a couple of those things. And then, I think the big thing for me was like figuring out, do I really like to do something? And if I like to do it or not, because sometimes like you kind of keep repeating the same things together, and it's like, oh, this is boring or something. And so you can try new things. Like, why not get help from out there? Like, we have bought this adventure book, and you scratch off and it's spontaneous. And like, why not get ideas from someone else who like they specialize in like excitement with relationships? Like I wasn't born coming out of the womb knowing like, all of these things. So I would say be open to finding help and support that can like, if you're looking to do exciting things, and if you find someone and it's new, you can like drop a couple things and things that you'd like to try that you never have, put it in a hat and like pick out. So I think like there's all different aspects of like why relationships could go sour, and those probably touch on a big piece. The other big thing too is like a lot of times I have an awareness now that something is really, like I've just mentioned a couple of times, like something is really within me, and that's why it's not like, not always, right? But this is why it's not working out, right? There could be other reasons, but if I have this thought and I have this like deep issue and I'm really like arguing about it, or something's really bothering me. Maybe like, they're not, if someone's like not calling at the right time, like me and my husband, texting was new at that time, like 15 years ago. Like it wasn't new, but like it was becoming a big thing. And I would be like, what is with his tone? Like you're texting, there's no tone, there's no it like
I
so
know what you mean. I
you
hate it
know
too.
so like it was like, all right, no, jumping out of like the situation, like there's something here that is going on, that it's like about like me, I'm misunderstanding, but it's not, because it's like it's the tool we're using, right? So like taking yourself out of the situation, if you were like watching a movie and like becoming aware of what the situation is and your part in it. So I threw a lot.
Wow, I loved it. You went so deep, and it is such a great, great advice.
Yeah.
I wish I
Awesome.
had that advice when I was
Yeah.
starting on this dating stuff. And no wonder, because you are a coach, and the
Mhm.
work that you do is amazing.
Thank you.
And do you think, well, before I give you my last question,
Hmm.
something you mentioned about um, just what comes out in a given moment, or your reaction or overreaction to something, and
Yeah.
really go inside and um, see what's the problem, right?
Yeah.
My mom had this saying, well, she has this saying that goes something like, under your roof, you will always live with something, no, with someone or something that really, really bothers you or triggers you.
Yes.
That is a fact. And I
Yes.
remember growing up, she telling me, or something like, oh, what you hate the most, you will experience. And well, now that I'm into this spirituality journey, I was
Yeah.
like, wow, my mom knew this wisdom way before. So,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's so true. I was just talking about this. Like one of my big things is money. And I unpacked the healing behind it, but I'm like frugal. I would argue about money. Those are like one of the, they say one of the big things people argue about. And I had did this exercise where and it was from a financial uh someone I found on a podcast, and she had said, go back to your first early years on money and your money memories. And I realized that they were not good. They were not good. There's a lot of things about, oh, what's going to happen? Are we okay? Are we overspending? There was like a job loss and fear around that. I had pulled that into the relationship unconsciously. I wasn't aware like that's where it's coming from, but we're good with money. Like everything's good. We both have jobs, we have savings, we have investments, like we're good. And I would always be like holding on to every last dollar and then arguing about my husband spending his like hard-earned money. So, and like what you said, attracting, right? What would naturally trigger me because it's trying to get out. We're trying to get to the bottom. It's like, oh wait, it's deep in there. It's like, hey, and don't realize it in the moment. So you're like, there's so like that in itself. Like I could go on and on like about so many things that I've realized during my healing journey. That's like, oh, I was attracting right things in it and it was getting triggered and I wasn't working on it. So like it would pop back over again. Like eventually it'd come back 6 months from then, a year, whatever, 2 days from now.
Right. Wow. Yeah. This so-called soul journey, it's quite the ride. Yeah. Everybody's like, whoa, okay. So, and it's like we say, right? When we know the root cause.
Yes.
So then we start this process of healing. We do meditation or whatever the healing technique we try, and we try so many, and
yes.
Not all of them work for everyone, but we have to find what works for our specific issue.
Yes.
And yeah, and then more things come up, and then you say, oh wow, this thing was linked to this thing too. Oh my goodness. Oh no, now I have to fix this one. Oh my goodness. And it never ends. And it's like, okay, universe, I get it. This will just keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
And then, but that's the way that you learn to accept more of who you are. You accept the experiences that you have had. And I hear over and over, and applies to myself, we are grateful, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we are grateful that we have found the core of the issue, and that we are able to transform it, to heal it.
Yes.
And just for me, I don't know about you, but for me, the most important piece in my life is that peace peace of mind, peace in my heart, right? And in my life overall. Once that I started this thing, yes, sometimes it gets crazy. I have to heal this other aspect of life, but you do it with peace in your heart, with that centeredness.
Yes.
And that is so beautiful, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh. And I will say the biggest, like the one thing that I did first was self-love. And because I didn't have it. I had a lot of like emotional negative experiences like growing up, right? And I have repressed memories for a reason. So there's just like emotional things that I would shove down, and like loving myself was not an option. So when I started this healing journey, I was like forced, and I was essentially, I feel like the universe was like, no, your time's up. You gotta like work through it. And so when I started that, I actually, and I was at that time, I had some PTSD through some traumas I was going through, and I met my spiritual coach, my mentor, and we worked on pink energy. And it was about it was pink and then red. We were looking at relationships. So I was looking at self-love from the pink. And then when we got to the relationships, the first thing that came up intuitively was to work on the relationship with myself. It was so interesting. He even said, he's like, I've never had that happen before. And I was like, well, my intuition, my inner guidance is like, I need to work on self-love. And when I knew, and this is also more advice to like to add on, when you know how to love yourself, you know, you like, one, I think you are attracting that in. I think that like you're loving yourself, and you are like that we're magnets, and we're attracting like people who are on this journey and that have that peace and acceptance, or we're really working on it. But you know what you like, you know your worth and your value. And then at that point, you're making decisions reflecting it in this like outer reality. So from inner to outer. And now we're like, okay, healthy boundary, that's what I used to go after with that person. No, that's not going to cut it anymore, because I love myself and I deserve like someone who's going to treat me with respect, because I respect myself now. So it's like, it's the most beautiful thing to be like, all right, I'm going to love myself first, and then allow that love in, and friends as well too. I think, at least for me, that's what I'm finding now. I'm like, oh, we get it.
Yes. Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that is when in the beginning of this soul journey, I had this mentor that had us holding. It was a group setting, and we pair with others, and we held hands and looked each other into our eyes and repeating, I love you, I love you, I love you. And it was so deep that everybody just started crying, because when you were telling the other person, I love you, it was like telling I love you to yourself. It was like a mirroring or something like that they call it. I cannot recall right now. But it was so beautiful. And then there's the other one as well. You look yourself in the mirror and you repeat, I love you, I love you. And you cry, and all these emotions come up. So my point is, loving ourselves seems to be the hardest part of the journey, right? It is like, wow. Well, because if you ask anybody around you, it's like, do you love yourself? Of course I love myself. But then you realize, I mean, I used to say, of course I love myself, right? But I didn't know what truly means to love yourself. It is respect to start with. Respect that you put boundaries. You not always say yes to everything and everyone.
Absolutely.
And you express more freely. I mean, just showing up in the world the way you are takes courage. Right?
Absolutely.
And we are not taught to do that. It's like, okay, you have to be an A+ student, and you have to do this and sit this way and act this way. And yes, I do agree. We all want to function well as a society. It seems that, yes, we have to have some rules and ways to carry ourselves and present ourselves, right? But there are other things that go way beyond that, and just create insecurity, people not being confident to express themselves. And so then how are we supposed to love ourselves when all that growing up has been imposed, right? And we are like, it is like a training, basically, right? Like, just like we just talked a few minutes ago. You are not supposed to ask for help. You just suck it up and move on, and you're fine. No, you don't need to go to therapy. You are
Yeah.
fine. Just
Yeah.
go to work and just okay. Men don't cry, which is another topic, right? Men
Yes.
don't cry.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa. I do recall, well, in my family, that was a theme too. Okay, my brothers, I don't have sisters, but my brothers were not allowed to cry.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I remember, like, I mean, I was little too, and I can recall like feeling bad for them. It's like I I recall thinking to myself, they are just humans. They you need to
Yeah.
release, because I will look into myself and say, well, it feels good when you cry, and then you're like, oh, okay, moving on. But
Yeah.
being told that you are not allowed to cry, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I just want to add on to like the complete agreement. It's like this, I've been calling it this unwiring. Like I'm unwiring all of these unconscious beliefs, false beliefs that was learned throughout childhood. Um, and just to kind of like what I would say to like to people that are watching is that if you feel that you love yourself, like right, because we were like, I was like, yeah, of course I love myself. I would ask a question. All of the like anytime you have a negative thought, say, would you say that to someone else? Would you, if you call yourself stupid or a failure, would you say that out loud to someone else? Would you tell them to their face that they're stupid and that they're a failure? And if the answer is no, like those are the big things to start to work on, because and not saying that you don't, there isn't love, but it's like those are pieces that you are false. They're completely false. And to open up your heart more, a lot of that negative stuff needs to move out so that you have positive thoughts, so that you can look at yourself, like you said, in the mirror and say, I love you, So I know people that can't do that. And it's like, sometimes we have things that we is really deep that we keep saying that's negative. And so that's a question that I would pose out there and see, like, get people thinking, see if like where they're at, you know.
yes, beautifully, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and my last question is,
Yes.
do you think true love is forever? Meaning in this life, in
Mm.
this lifetime, like every
Just
lifetime, not like all lifetimes, like with the same person all lifetimes. No, I'm talking about one.
yeah. Thank you for clarifying, because I totally could have gone into like a I definitely feel like I've known my husband in past lives. I do. I think that uh for me, the way it feels like I could absolutely, there's a knowing that eventually one of us are going to go before the other. And that like breaks my heart, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is my person. This is like this is the person I'm doing life with. And I feel like it's could be more, yes, absolutely be forever. It does take a lot of inner workings of ourselves and like continued growth. And I feel like sometimes when we stop growing, or maybe we feel the other person stop growing, like we feel like there's a wall, right? And so those are things that can be worked through, and there's challenges. And like my husband and me, we have not been through a picnic. It has not been easy by any means, and that will continue. Like it's not going to stop. I mean, I had the hardest year of my life last year and the year before, and we came out in a better space. And so if we decide that we are going to stop working on ourselves, and that's when things could fall. But it's always, and there could be other things too, but there's no doubt in my mind that true love can be forever. It's just continued life as life happens, and taking things as it comes, and working through, and meeting halfway, or that 80-20, and getting tools to help us through things if we need them. And I'm not like, I've never been an expert on, like, this is like marriage, right? This is like a relationship. And like, I got into a relationship and it was young. I was an expert. So like, and that's okay. So there's people out there, right? Like, this is like what, you do. Like, this is, people are, they know how to help provide the support. So I would always say, before any type of point of giving up, to really like look at the situation, look at what's going on, and look at some of those things, and then figure out, okay, like, can we work through this? Can we work through things on our own, work together, and like, make it happen? Because things are going to be thrown at us that like we would have never expected. Like, 2 years ago, I would never have expected for my husband to have a mental health breakdown. Like, never. Like, we didn't know he was bipolar. So like, it was surprise, and it was pretty intense and traumatic, and like, there were things that were happening. It's like, things happen that like I didn't like imagine in movies happening. So there was no handbook on this life, on like, this is what you do in this situation. And like, my husband needed to get help, and I was never in that situation of like someone that happening to someone. So, and that's okay to accept. And then if things weren't done as maybe they should have been done, like, we're not perfect. Again, we don't know these tools. So, and we came out of it stronger because we really worked on things. So I 100,000,000% believe that it's forever.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Yay. Okay, so, and now to wrap up, you have a surprise for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I am offering 30% off of my services through the end of October. And so there'll be a code and a link that will be, in the notes. So you'll have that, and I'll get that over to you. And so just kind of give an idea on what it is. It could be spiritual and conscious living coaching, business and creativity coaching, also intuitive readings. I do all kinds of readings there, and then as well as healing so there's Akashic enlightenment, healing, Reiki, and light language, like all combined into one session. So a good punch.
That sounds so amazing, and like, oh, it sounds like a lot. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, but it's so beautiful. It's, if you're looking for like a realignment, and if you're looking for realignment within and outside, it's just so many different things. So anyways, but yeah, so giving that for your listeners, and take advantage of it, because it'll be, that'll be the lowest that'll ever be. And so I wanted to give your listeners something
thank you, Jenna,
to kind of get excited about.
That's so kind of you. And tomorrow I actually have my soul reading, right? Yay.
Yes.
So I'm very excited. Yes. Okay, so thank you so much for hanging out with me and spending your precious and valuable time with me and with my listeners. Okay, dear.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.